Hello, welcome to the video on how to run a small business, 5 key steps. So today I'm going to take you back on a journey over the last 30 years or more about me as a consultant. So my consulting company is a small business, and there are things we've learned over those years which I think are essential to any small business. So number one will be to focus on the customer's needs, not your solution. It is very, very tempting and common to build a thing, your solution, and basically assume this is amazing and people will love it. And it takes a long time to learn that what they really care about, the customers really care about, is their particular need, which could be quite different from what you have built. Now, maybe what you have built, your service, your solution, is actually amazing. But to be honest, nobody actually really cares apart from yourself. Same thing with my situation. I build things, courses, consulting, whatever, and I may think they're amazing, but the litmus test is really, does anybody buy it and do they kind of like it? So I think it's very important to always practice the idea is that, you can build something or have an idea, but unless you really understand the needs of the customer, by talking to them, observing them, your solution may never kind of fit. You're always putting a square peg in a round kind of hole. So before I send any proposal to people, I always insist upon nicely in a phone call, maybe even 2 phone calls. And that's kind of where we go through their situation, their company, their needs and whatever. And I'm writing down detailed notes of kind of what they really need. And then adapting whatever I have, my A, to kind of fit that. And so by doing this, I've not tied myself to my thing I'm selling, and secondly, I can really figure out what is the need they have, how many needs do they have, kind of what are they, and then I can adapt my solution for them and then put that in the proposal. And I find a lot more of my proposals sell or close when I do that versus what I used to do before. Is just going to go on faith that whatever they said they kind of wanted, and if I then just give them a proposal with my square peg here, they would just go buy it. Look at a standard service versus custom service. So part of my needs collection is to allow me to then modify and tweak my proposal to them. The tweaking typically could be for free. Now if there's a lot of tweaking involved, I may actually say, I'll charge you a half a day of tweaking and modification because your need is so different. But typically I'm able to tweak it kind of minorly and do that for free for them, although there's some labor on my part to sell. Maybe they want the cheap version. So maybe your particular square peg here is the deluxe version, and you've been good at selling deluxe versions before, but actually now you're running into a bunch of customers that don't want the deluxe. And so part of your needs identification, which it can be to figure out that they want the one-day version or the tiny version or the mini version or the plastic version or the whatever version. And so you can sell a lot more of those, and you don't really know that until you're going to work with them to understand and clarify their needs. Also, you may be tempted to basically try to have them buy it sooner than later, by kind of playing the proposal kind of games. This proposal is good for 32 days and then it expires, or this price is good for 4 minutes, then you have to decide. And if you did that, you're focusing on your company and you versus focusing on the customer and their kind of need. And so part of the needs discussion is determining their urgency when they have money, when they have ability to spend money, when they have the time to commit to do whatever you need them to do to adopt the solution or have the solution, and then you may figure out they need it kind of later. Or maybe you break up the solution to bits. Maybe there's a bit now, a bit in the month, and a bit in 2 months. And so you won't know that obviously until you speak to them. So whether it's a scheduling issue or buying the deluxe or the cheap version, or the standard or the services custom version, they are all examples of your peg here and the round hole you have to adapt it to. So the second thing I have learned over the years, and I think I've got fairly good at doing, and I really appreciate when vendors do that to me, is being creative and finding a solution. Not assuming that what they're selling is it. Now, we sell the red box and rubber peg, and that's it. You don't want a red peg, then go somewhere else again. No, it's all about the company and what they're selling versus the customer and their need. And so I think it's really key for a small business to be extremely creative, to always going to work with the customer and figure out a workable solution. That may be quite different from what you had in mind at the beginning, but allows you to sell and expand your services and products kind of later. So maybe you sell the smaller one versus a larger one. Yeah. Whatever your thing is, I'm selling consulting and courses and that kind of stuff, but you may be selling products or screws or widgets or felt or sheep or whatever. Okay, dog shoes. I know what you're selling, but is there a smaller batch, a smaller version than a bigger one? Do you have some choices you can work with? They have a particular need. Are you able to adapt to their need? Same kind of thing, but a different modification. Maybe in parts. So maybe you're selling this big thing here, but actually if you look at their need, they need this bit right now, okay, the first time. And then they need this bit over here, the second iteration. And they need this bit over here, the third iteration. And then this bit over here, the fourth one, and everything else later. And so whereas you may be tempted to say, well, we can do the whole thing in 6 months, okay, actually, if you work with them, you figure out that there may be a way to break up the solution for them into the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Maybe if it's a product, maybe one is you rent it to them, okay, for a week to kind of try it out, get going. Or maybe you borrow one, or maybe you do it manually for them versus the system you're selling. Or maybe it's a phone call or a half-day webinar. Whatever you're selling, there's a smaller portion you can do earlier. So eventually you sell the whole thing, and you obviously bill and bid for the whole thing, but the way you sell it to them or the way that you deploy it to them is in bits and pieces, given what they need to absorb when they need to absorb it. If you can do that, that's a lot more creative than saying it's just here, come get the whole thing, and then they have to kind of deal with the whole thing. And they maybe actually think you're a better vendor if you can actually work with them on deployment of the solution. Maybe they start telling you in the phone call their boss is a big problem. Okay? But you've worked with bosses before that do financial approvals and kind of whatever. And so, when I deal with that in my company, and the person that calls him up says, well, I would like to buy it, he or she says, but my boss is like borderline, or my boss doesn't agree, or my boss whatever. I will say, let's do a joint call with your boss, okay? And I will listen to their needs and concerns, and we'll figure out a plan going forward, okay, whatever the needs and concerns are. And usually the customer I'm dealing with, the individual, is kind of shocked, like, oh, you're going to solve my boss problem too, and the problem with me and my boss. And so, yeah, I will work with you on that. I will have so for free, I will do sessions with them, phone calls, video calls, and whatever you want, to alleviate their concerns and make sure we're kind of in line with their kind of needs scheme. And so they may have their customer that's in the way, or their supplier that's in the way, and you're thinking, well, this can be resolved, and so maybe you are the person to offer the resolution. I do that for free with people. If it takes me 3 extra hours to make the sale, so what? No, it could be worth 20 or 30k, and it's a good use of my 3 hours. Deliver it virtually or in person. And so back in the pre-COVID time, I was doing everything, this consulting company, in person, with a little bit here and there in virtual. And then COVID hit, and we suddenly, over a weekend, changed to virtual everything. Now, we were very fortunate in our company to be able to do that. Obviously, you can't do that in every company. You have to be in person. But are there things you can do, like training or assistance or one-on-one help, that is virtually? I think a good example of this would be the medical industry. I know until COVID hit, everything was in the doctor's office. And then when COVID hit, we can use Zoom, okay? Or we could use email. Okay? I mean, for generations, that was not even a thought or a consideration beforehand, although we had telephones and stuff before that point. So going to do serious sessions over Zoom. But suddenly COVID forced the issue, and we figured out, we could do this over Zoom. It can actually work. License to live solution. Maybe they don't want to buy the product, but they want to make it. Or they don't want to buy many of them from you, they want to replicate them themselves. So is there a way you can take whatever you're selling and then kind of license it? We've done that with quite a few of our courses over the years, where they had so many people to train on a particular topic area. We did a train the trainer, then license the materials, tracked their numbers, and then build them. Okay? And so it's a bit of overhead to get kind of started. But for those few events we did, it worked out very well. Make a loss on the first one to get going. I had a recent example of a client that bought a 4-day course on something, and I had done the course before, but all the pieces, like the materials, were all over the place. That I would then, in the previous client, kind of have 15 things I would hand them out and work with them on. And it worked okay back then, but then I sold this 4-day thing again. And so I basically decided to work with the client, figure out kind of what their needs were, take the topic areas down to from 5 days to 4 days by chopping out things. And then I spent a whole week by myself just kind of assembling all the bits and pieces back in a far more elegant and workable solution they could then use in the class I was teaching them. And so it was worth my time, I think, to make a loss on the first one, or kind of break even from a purely hourly and money kind of perspective, because I think the solution I have now is much better, and I can sell more of them kind of later. And so I will get my income kind of back at a subsequent time. And so if you believe you can sell more, but it's a lot of extra labor to sell the first one, but you need to kind of get going, get the customer kind of going, and make some progress, and kind of prove your credibility, I would say, is worth making a loss on the first few, just so you can kind of get in the door and build a reputation with that client. Now, number 3 is a very unique one to my consulting company business that my partner Mary and I have been working on for so many years. That is, our personality had been or has been and is still no or limited debt. Actually, no debt. We've never borrowed anything. Now, I don't think every company can do that. You may have machinery and equipment and whatever you have to get a loan for, which is understandable. But I would say the premise here is to figure out what you can do without and what you can do with on a cheap scale so you don't incur too much debt. Okay. So let's look at some examples, and you can make this apply to your situation. Firstly, if you want to buy X, okay, X could be a piece of equipment, X could be an office building or office space, X could be clothing, X could be transportation, or X could be a vehicle or whatever. You pick your X thing you want to buy. Now, if you didn't buy it, would anybody actually notice? Okay? Yes, you wouldn't be as productive or look as fancy or be so slick with without the X. But if you didn't have the X that you want to buy, would anybody really notice? Okay? There's a chance that they would not, and that you probably could delay X until you actually can afford to buy X for cash. So just consider doing without some things and see if you can work with what you have to kind of provide the solution. If the customer doesn't know or care really, then I would say that's a good motivation to delay the purchase of X. And buy a cheap or used X. I'm assuming the thing you want to buy has been around for a while, and therefore there could be a vendor that sells used versions. Okay? I know my brother is an electronic engineer, and he has a knack for going to eBay and buying used stuff that was probably 5 times the cost, when they were brand new. But he needed the equipment to do some measurement or some whatever it is, and then he found the eBay version that is adequate, more than adequate, and the customer doesn't really know or care what he has to do the thing, and therefore he's going to buy in the cheap or used X. Rent or borrow, one. So can you rent it, which is a lot cheaper, but you can get through your particular event with the borrowed or rented X. Maybe X is fixed. In my consulting company, there's actually a license we have to pay for every year. It's about $20,000, and so we can't do our one particular service without that license to do it. And so what we've done here is prorate the cost of X among all the clients over 12 months. And so it's not exactly prorated, but a lot of the money is prorated. And so there's a little fee we add to every client that basically added up over the year will pay for quite a bit of that license. It's not all of it, but it's quite a bit of the license. And so that is a way for us to buy X, because we have to buy X, the license, and then actually have a way to kind of get the money back over time. And actually know we are going to get the money back over time. Maybe a bank loan versus credit card. Credit cards are known to be in the 18 to 25% kind of range of interest, versus bank loans can be a lot less. Again, you shop around. Just shopping around can give you a big range of who wants to kind of sell you what money for kind of what rate. Ask your accountant. Go to a financial person and get some serious advice on where do you get money from and kind of what rates should you buy and what kind of equity do you have to kind of put down. Again, I have not done that myself for the company because we had a principle or a basic idea at the very beginning. It's not going to borrow any money. If we couldn't do it, we didn't do it. And so we did it without for quite a long time. Pay back loans systematically. So if you do borrow money, have the discipline to make sure it's paid off on a regular basis so you can minimize the total debt incurred to the company. That is not that is not a good, it's a negative money, and so you want positive money versus negative money. And this, I've heard this a few times by some people, you must spend money to make money. And I did a bit of Googling, and it seems to be from this person called Titus Plautus from 200 to 100 BC. That's a while back. That's before internet and stuff like that, probably before banks. And so, big banks. And so, I would say if you have that theory in mind, my personal view would be that's a complete disaster. Okay? That is, that could encourage you to just spend money with the hope you make money. Okay? Versus spend money where you know you're going to make money. If you know for sure you're going to make money by spending money, like you could buy something at X dollars and sell it for Y dollars, which is more, and you know that can be the case, then sure, yeah, you can buy, spend money to make money. But if you're just putting things on a credit card, like buying a new equipment, and with the notion that somehow magically, if you buy all this stuff, which feels good and kind of fun, somehow this philosophy will then come true magically, and then it doesn't come true, you just have a big credit card bill, then I would say this is a disaster. So I'm just sharing you my personal view of the world about money, kind of how we've survived for over 30 years. You may have a very different need and take for your particular business. I would say the bottom line is be conservative. So number 4, diversify audience and offerings. And this is something we've been working on for a long, long time. At least the 30 years of the 32 or 33 years consulting. And so it has occurred to us over the years that when one industry is doing well, another one's going to be doing badly. And when one country is doing well, another one's going to be doing badly. And so we have tried a lot to kind of diversify continually for the kind of people we work with. So audiences, commercial companies, selling to a regular commercial company. We're doing IT software kind of things, consulting. And so, commercial companies like, not that we have worked with, but I think like Microsoft, Apple, those kind of people, Bose, versus a government entity like Navy, Air Force, etc., versus the people that supply to government. And so this has been quite a diverse range of people. Sometimes governments have no money because of their financial stress, and commercial people do. Sometimes in downturns, commercial people have no money, but the government do, or the suppliers do. Okay? And so having some mix of these companies over the years has been very useful to us. Industries, medical, defense, IT, banking, transportation, and there's a lot more out there too. When one industry is going to down, other one's going to up. When one's going to up, one's going to down. And so it takes a bit of a while to meet people and get known by these kind of other companies. But we've noticed within an industry, we need maybe 4 or 5 or 6 industries in parallel going at any one time, where if one is kind of diving somehow because of the economy, another one's kind of surviving. And at any point in time, somebody somewhere has some money to kind of buy something from us and kind of keep us going. We have some customers that do product development because we're in the IT software kind of world and hardware world. And we have quite a few that do service delivery. Like they do their own IT services, like cyber security services. And so they buy our services to help them do that kind of better. And so having a mix of service audience and product development audience has been very useful over the years. We started out back in the 90s with large companies, typically Fortune 100, 500 companies, and they would kind of know us. And then over the years, as the economy kind of went up and down, we then found more small companies, and we have to kind of shrink our services and what we offer to those particular companies. And so having a diverse collection of small, medium, and large companies over the years has also been very useful to kind of keep us going. Our services come in packages like beginner, intermediate, advanced. So a beginner company, they want to learn how to do planning as a beginner, or estimation as a beginner, or to find defects as a beginner, the particular things that they have a need for. And so they've never done this before. We can help them kind of go from beginner to intermediate. Or some companies contact us and they have been doing their basic skills for quite a while, but they are kind of tired of being basic and rudimentary. And so we offer them an intermediate skills scheme. Or there's a few here and there, not that many, but they want to become very advanced. And there's a few things that we do for them that are more advanced. And so most of our audience is down here, okay, in the beginner intermediate kind of realm, over 30 years, and a few are kind of up here. And then countries, we are mostly focused on US, but over the years we've had quite a bit of Europe, and right now we are US and Asia. Okay, and so having Asian companies involved, this is now done virtually, but used to be done in person, has been very useful. Now this is obviously difficult to pull off. You can't do this overnight, but bit by bit, kind of getting our word out there through contacts and connections and networks and whatever, conferences and marketing activities, it has been kind of useful to become known by different people in different countries over the years. And number 5, I think, is hold on in a downturn. And so this diagram is actually our real diagram of revenue. Okay. And you can see the years 1990 at the far left, and then we're end of 2022 on the far right. So just over 30 years of data. And so this is our gross revenue over those kind of years. And you can see it took maybe 5 years to kind of get going. So we basically had to just hold on tight and eat nothing, and we had to spend nothing to kind of get going. And then it kind of got going. So we had to be patient for that. And then it kind of really got going. And we realized after a while you can't repeat peaks. They're very difficult to repeat. So let's look at some key milestones here. At the beginning, when we started, there was a war going on. And so that took people's attention and money. Not to us, but to the war. Then in 1999, 2000 roughly, there was the Y2K. That took their money, took their attention and money. So there's a downturn there. And then we had our lovely 2007, 2008 timeframe, where there was a major recession going on. That was a major fall from up here, peak, to kind of down here, trough, okay, recession. and then bit by bit it's going to be bit by bit kind of gradually going up. Okay, but you can still see it spiking. There's really nothing we did or didn't do to cause the spikes. And we're always kind of out there doing proposals and marketing and advertising and working with people and whatever. But it's a very spiky kind of spiky kind of graph. And so some things we've learned by that. One is have financial reserve before you start. Okay. That is that at the beginning of a small business, you might sell nothing, okay, or anything. And so you're going to have to, if you don't have another full-time job, you're going to have a reserve of money to kind of keep on going and keep fed. And so if you don't have that reserve, I would say don't start yet or start in parallel. For example, this company, the consulting company, basically worked part-time for a few months, 6 months I think it was, and then we both quit our full-time in previous jobs and then kind of did this full-time. But it may be longer for you or shorter. But I would say don't give up your guaranteed benefits and full-time income if you don't have a good financial reserve to live on, which could be going up to a year's worth of income before you actually make any money whatsoever on a small business. Sales will go up and down regardless of what you do. So I would say don't, just because it's going up, okay, it does not mean it's going to go up. Or just because it's going down does not mean it's going to go down forever. It's going to change. The graph will be like a roller coaster. But my last point here is it's a roller coaster. Get used to it and don't give up. So you can do things to maybe make the roller coaster a little bit more gentle, because you can advertise and market and network and hustle, on a regular basis, like we do. But we do that and it still goes up and down. And so you have to have some cushion built up over time to be able to absorb that kind of a downturn. And yes, it is painful. 2000, 2007 and 8 were painful. The year 1999 was kind of painful. In fact, at this point here is when we kind of worked with China a lot. Okay, we happened to get an email forwarded from somebody else that says we're looking for vendors in the US to work in China. Go back and forth to China. And we basically followed up on that and we got a contract. It's been going for 12 years now. And it's a great contract. We love the people we work with. And we are truly blessed by having them. But that came out of a desperate need to kind of do something at that point. So a bit of luck and a bit of us following through with it allowed that to occur. And so you've got to be prepared and flexible at all times. There's no guarantee up and downs, up or down. It's up and down. Okay. When you do a down, or you see a downturn, what are you learning? Are you selling things that are too big, too complicated, too expensive? When you get an up, was there a thing you did that caused the up to occur? The way you dealt with the client, the way you closed the sale, the way you propose something. Is there anything you can learn from that? I would say it is easy to learn from a down about how to maybe address the downturn by making things smaller and cheaper for people to kind of buy. And it is much harder to repeat a up. Okay, to repeat this up over here is very difficult. We were lucky. We had one major corporation buying a ton of stuff, and for that year, with one major client in that company buying a ton of stuff, and of course that is difficult to repeat. Okay, so we were unable to repeat it. So much easier to react to and maybe address some of the downturns and see what's kind of going on. Much harder in our case to duplicate and repeat the upturn scheme. So I tell all new companies, whatever they're doing, it's a roller coaster. If you choose to do a small company, it's a roller coaster. So just assume it is a roller coaster, but don't give up. So we've been going for over 32 years on this company here, the consulting company, and so we have not given up. We are able to collect enough cash to kind of keep on going in the downturn and not kind of completely go hungry. And we kind of kept on going. We didn't spend much money. We saved quite a bit of money. We didn't buy new fancy things when we couldn't afford to. We never borrowed any money. We never hired anybody that was too expensive. We worked out of our offices, our homes as offices if we needed to. We stopped going out for lunchtime if we needed to. We did all kinds of things to basically minimize the expenditure and enable the company's going to keep on going over the years scheme. So hold on in a downturn. So that's a quick tour of a set of stories, experiences from the last 32 years of that particular company that I'm still part of. This one here, Improving Your Small Business, please go take a look at the website. I have articles and all kinds of stuff up there and videos coming out every so often. They're typically either map to the article or a bit different from the article. And as a small business owner, yes, I do actually offer services, so go take a look at what I can do. And if you have a question, comment, post it down below. Subscribe. Any questions, please email me. There is a contact form up here too, and I reply to every email I get. If I don't get the email, some other system ate the email somewhere, but I do check it and test it, and so on my end it should be fine. But if something happened, you don't get a reply, then call me up, email me, whatever, some other way, and I'll get back with you. Thank you. Bye-bye.